Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks. Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Continuing Education, SOCE Master's Degree Programs. Master of Science in Counseling and Family Therapy, MSCCFT First Year. MCFT-001 Human Development and Family Relationships. Block-1 Human Development, Theoretical Approaches. Unit 1 Introduction to Human Development. 1.1 Introduction. The development of human beings is the area of interest for many scientists, philosophers and psychologists. To understand human growth and change from conception till death, we study human development. It is a field of science which has evolved from the discipline of developmental psychology and shares contributions from other disciplines like sociology, anthropology, biology, psychiatry and others. In this unit, we will get the visions of several civilizations regarding child and human development, such as views of Christian, Greece, Rome and India, and how their vision changed over a period of time. Further, we will learn about the origin of human development as a scientific field and how the advancements in this field took place in the world including India. We will discuss some of the important philosophies on child given by various psychologists like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Stanley Hall. We will also talk about the philosophies of Mahatma Gandhi and Rabindranath Tagore on childhood. Further, we will study about the present scenario of human development, which includes its definition, goals and nature of study. In this unit, we will discuss the principles of development, the different domains of development and stages of human lifespan. Vision of Hindu religion on human lifespan will also be discussed. Further, we will discuss the basic perspectives of human development. Is human development determined by nature or nurture? Is the course of development continuous or discontinuous? Is the child viewed as an active or passive organism? Is development process stable after some time, or is it liable to change at any phase of life? This unit would provide answers to these and many other such questions. Finally, we will understand how biological influences like gender, maturation, and environmental contexts like family, socioeconomic status and culture affect the development of human beings. In the end of the unit, we will discuss the importance of studying human development in the field of counseling and family therapy. Objectives. After studying this unit, you will be able to understand the field of human development, examine the scientific emergence of human development, discuss the basic perspectives of human development, and explain the importance of human development in the field of counseling and family therapy. 1. Do a historical glimpse. To have an in-depth understanding in the area of human development as it exists today, we must return to its history. In this section, we will study the historical perspective and foundation of human development. We will explain the different cultural views on child from both Western as well as Indian perspectives, which have affected the theories and researches on human and child development. 1.2.1 Western View, the Medieval Times. During the Middle Ages, that is, 500 to 1500 AD, it was assumed that from half to two-thirds of children died before the age of 2 years. McLaughlin, 1974. It was very difficult for parents to cope up with this loss, so to keep themselves emotionally fit, they avoided getting closely attached with their infants. Children at the age of 7 or 8 years were expected to behave like adults. It is believed that, during the medieval times, European people had no concept of childhood as a separate stage of human life. Children after infancy were considered as miniature adults. This view of regarding children is known as preformationism. Aries, 1962. We can observe this view from the artwork like paintings of medieval times, in which children's dressing and expressions were same as of the adults. See figure 1.1. Some efforts were made to protect children from maltreatment during that time, but no theories were found which describe childhood as a separate development period. Bostelman, 1983. After medieval times, during the 16th century, childhood was seen as a different stage of life but regarded as an original sin. According to Puritan, Christian doctrine, the child's soul was tainted by original sin and children were required to be civilized. Children were believed to be stubborn and born evil. Shahar, 1990. Generally very harsh and authoritarian parenting techniques were suggested to be followed. But love and affection for own children prevented many Puritan parents from following such measures. Puritans developed the first special reading material for children that guided them about how to behave according to religious and moral ideals. Burke, 2002. Later, parents of this community reduced the harsh and strict discipline and adopted democratic parenting style to train their children according to their culture. Pollock, 1987. Era of Enlightenment. During the Renaissance, the attitude towards childhood was changed by rediscovering great writings of ancient Greece and Rome. Towards the end of the 17th century, philosophy of tabula rasa was proposed by British philosopher John Locke, 1632 to 1704. According to him, children were a blank slate at birth and the external experience from the surroundings shaped their personality characteristics. He put more emphasis on parental techniques as he regarded parents as rational tutors. He suggested giving rewards for desirable and good behavior but not by money or materials, like chocolate, sweets, but with praise and right words. He strictly opposed physical punishment. He was against the harsh and strict view towards children and favored kind and compassionate view. John Locke considered children as passive organisms, as their characters were determined by the external factors, or in other words, the children were a blank state and were written by others, and innate qualities of the children had very little or negligible effect on their later development. But in the 18th century this view was rejected by Jean-Jacques Rousseau, 1712 to 1778. He was a French philosopher, who said that children were not blank slates to be written by the adults. According to him, children were active and noble savage, meaning they were born with the sense of right and wrong, and had unique ways of thinking and feeling. Adult training could harm the innate goodness of the child. We have studied the historical views regarding children in the Western culture. Let us see how Indian culture views children in history. 1.2.2 Indian view on human development. In the ancient times, the theories of man and his interrelationships in philosophy discourses were first described by Valmiki and Vyasa, Swami, 1999, in their manuscripts of Ramayana and Mahabharata, respectively. In India, child is considered as God. In both Ramayana and Mahabharata, the great epics of ancient India, young children, whether in the form of Rama, Lakshmana, Shatrughanna, Bharata, Hanumana, Krishna, Sita, Rukmani, and others have been portrayed as very loving children. See figure 1.2. From ancient period, Indians loved their children dearly. It was believed that children are gifts from God and products of their previous karma. Parents presumed that their children were related to them in their past lives. According to Manu, man recreates himself through his own children. Ancient Indians did not approve childlessness and considered it to be very ill-fated. The child and childbirth was so very important in India that special ceremonies were performed before and after the birth of child. The main samskaras, ceremonies, related to children were Garbhadarna, conception, Jatakarma, childbirth, Annaprasanna, giving the child solid food, Mundan, shaving head, and Upanayana, scared thread ceremony. Even today, these samskaras are being followed by many Hindu families. Today also parents in India treat their child with lots of love and affection. Parents treat their children as a blessing of God and a form of God or goddess, having a popular saying as "Bacha Bhagwan ka roop hota hai," meaning the child in her or his young age is considered to be an image of God. Young boys are loved as Bal Gopal or Lord Krishna, a Hindu god in his childhood, and young girls are worshipped as Devi goddess like Mata Vaishno Devi, a Hindu goddess. Apart from childhood stages, Life as human being is very important and precious according to various Indian religions. Sant Gyaneshwar, Tulsidas, Kabir, Sai Baba, Swami Vivekananda and many other religious gurus including Sikh gurus have described the human mind, the conscious and subconscious mind of humans and the importance of human life, yoni, with respect to the Supreme Being, that is God. The major part of ancient Indian scriptures, Hindu, Buddhist and Jain, emphasizes self-realization, samadhi or nirvana. The importance of life as human being was very well understood by the ancient Indians. For example, consider the Indus Valley Civilization, 6000 to 1500 BC, believed to be the first human civilization with the theory of consciousness, Matthew, 2001. We can see the man sitting in Padmasana in their artifacts. Indus Valley script used the symbol of swastika for the very first time. Buddhist thoughts and methods during 6th century B.C. had discussed the same concept as discussed in modern science and law of parsimony of science, and they can be tested scientifically. Buddhist techniques of meditation, Sunyavada, Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path has psychological relevance in modern psychology also. Similarly, Vedas and Upanishads described the Vedanta philosophy and provided a theoretical base for Jnana Yoga which has direct relevance to psychology. The Bhagavad Gita also describes the Indian way of life and philosophy, focusing on yogas, karma and bhakti. Rabindranath Tagore, 1861 to 1941, on child. Rabindranath Tagore, a Nobel Prize winner, was a social and educational reformer. He established an institute for rural reconstruction and named it as Shantiniketan for the upliftment of the untouchables. At Shantiniketan, scholars from many places were appointed to share their knowledge with the students. He initiated Upanishad ideals of education. In 1901 Tagore set up a school, Vishwabharati, which was devoted to emerging Western and Indian philosophy and education. He was very fond of children and wrote many poems, stories and books for them. He believed in rearing children in natural environment and in enriching their environment. He believed that a child's urge for learning should not be limited to parents' thinking as the child has been born in the more evolved era. Mahatma Gandhi, 1869 to 1948, on child. Mahatma Gandhi, father of India, cherished children a lot and he gave more importance on early childhood education. He stated that children should always be with their parents, as they are the first teachers of the child and home is the child's first school. He strongly believed that for proper rearing of the child, parents should have basic knowledge of care and upbringing of the child. Mahatma Gandhi favored the view of innate goodness as he always said that others' viewpoint should not be forced on children. Instead, one should let the children be reared in a natural way and enrich their environment. He criticized strongly stuffing children's minds. Chattopadhyaya, 1986. 1.3 Scientific foundation of the field. In the 19th century, Charles Darwin, 1809 to 1882, a British biologist, propounded the idea of origin of species. He proposed a theory which emphasized two related principles: natural selection and survival of the fittest, which we will discuss in the next unit. Darwin found that the prenatal stage of many species is similar. After Darwin, many other scientists worked on this line and observed various aspects of child's behavior so as to understand development of human beings and their evolution. In this way, the science of human development evolved. Let us study the stepwise progress of human development as a scientific field. 1.3.1 The Baby Diaries and Biographies. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, some scientists began to write down the day-to-day description of behavior of their closely related child, for example, son or niece. The problem in these biographies was that they were biased. As the child was closely related, scientists reflected only the positive or good behavior and chances of avoiding noting down the negative behavior was high. But German biologist, William Pryor set very high standards for making observations of the child's behavior as he checked the accuracy of his own notes against the second observer. Cairns, 1998. This technique is very scientific, and even today many observers use this technique for observing a child's behavior. 1.3.2 Normative period. G. Stanley Hall, 1844 to 1924, was one of the followers of Charles Darwin, who used Darwin's ways of recording and documenting the behavior in psychology. Dwetsky, 1981. He is considered as the father of psychology. He was the first person to study children in laboratory. A student of Stanley Hall, Arnold Gazelle, 1880 to 1961, and Hall both launched the normative approach to child study. In this approach, a large number of children were observed to study a specific behavior. Further, they constructed questionnaires according to the age group of children, asking them about their interests, fears, imaginary playmates, dreams, etc. White, 1992. Using the same technique, Gazelle conducted studies on motor achievements, social behaviors and personality characteristics of infants and children. He made developmental norms on the basis of these researches. 1.3 Development of First Intelligence Scale. Alfred Binet, 1857 to 1911, a French psychologist, worked on the line of Hall and Gazelle, but on a different aspect. He was asked to develop a test to identify children with learning problems who needed special care and education. He constructed the first intelligence test, which was adopted by Stanford University in 1916 and is known as Stanford-Binet Intelligence Scale. This was a landmark in the field of human development. Stanford-Binet Intelligence Scale, with revisions, is still used in researches related to intelligence. 1.3.4 An early developmental theorist. An American psychologist, James Mark Baldwin, 1881 to 1934, was the first theorist who believed that neither environment nor innate goodness controls the child's character. Rather, nature and nurture both play an equally important role. He found that children's understanding of their surroundings develops in a set sequence of stages. It begins with simple behavior patterns and later develops into more complex and abstract thinking. 1.3.5 Development of the discipline of human development in India. Human development as a field of study was not studied as a different discipline in India earlier. Hence, all the development that took place under this discipline was studied under the aegis of psychology. To understand the growth of human development in India, we need to look into the history of psychology. Sinha, 1986, has described 4 phases of Indian psychology that are: 1. Pre-independence phase. It is the era before 1947. During that time, Indian psychology was highly influenced by the work done in the West. The empiricist psychology tradition was a gift to India by the British, but the psychology in Indian context did not grow much because of 2 reasons. A. The educated Indians during British Raj were slow to react due to imposition and racist attitude of British, and B. The researches in this field were carried out by social scientists from allied fields like sociology, anthropology, and political science, which were not able to do justice to the subject of psychology. 2. Early post-independence SOCE, 1947 to 1960. During this period, the Western concepts of psychology were adapted, modified and replicated in India. The main aim of this practice was to standardize many Western psychometric measures on Indian samples. 3. Late post-independence phase, 1960 to 1970. This is the period when Indian psychologists tried to conduct original studies on real issues and problems in the society, taking into cognizance political and economic realities in 4. India. An indigenization phase, 1970 present. In this period, psychologists developed theories and models of Indian origin, which helped to study Indian psychology. It is an attempt in search of a new identity. During this phase, much of the researches are done in the domains of developmental, social and clinical psychology. The two great Indian innovators in the field of Indian psychology were Girindra Shekhar Bose, 1887 to 1953, and Durganand Sinha, 1922 to 1998. Girindra Shekhar Bose was educated from the first Psychology Department of India established in Calcutta in 1905. He became head of that department at the age of 23 years. He was the first self-styled psychoanalyst. He founded the Indian Psychoanalytic Society after having correspondence with Freud and Ernst Jones in early 1920s. Bose worked on Indian cultural psyche in his doctoral research, and his work related to the concept of repression and interpretation of many religious texts. The other important personality in Indian psychology was Durganand Sinha. He had done his post-graduation in Britain with Frederick Bartlett. Sinha focused on multifarious issues in Psychology Department in Allahabad, which is known as Center for Advanced Study in Psychology. Kumar, 2006. There are many other thinkers and theorists who have made significant contribution to the field of human development in the Indian socio-cultural context. These include Janak Pandey, Girishwar Mishra, T.S. Saraswati, S. Anandalakshmi and Margaret Khalakdina, to name a few. 1.4 Human Development, Nature and Principles. Human development is a branch of science that deals with the study of all the changes viz. Physical, social, emotional, behavioral and psychological that occur during the entire lifespan of human beings, that is, from conception to death. In the previous sections, we have studied how the science of human development came into existence and how it grew with time. Now, human development is a well-developed discipline with its specific nature and goals. Let us discuss the science as it exists today. 1.4.1 The scientific and applied field. Nowadays, human development is a well-developed field of study. Although it is in its infancy in comparison to other disciplines, yet the researches done in this field are very scientific and well-defined. Human development is an interdisciplinary field of science. It has emerged from developmental psychology. It also shares its subject matter with other sciences like sociology, anthropology, biology, political science etc. Devdas and Jaya, 1984. 1.4.2 Goals of Human Development. Like all scientific disciplines, the discipline of human development also has specific goals. The major goals of human development are description, explanation, prediction and modification of human behavior. Description of behavior means to describe what is going on, for example describing hyperactivity in a child, or a temper tantrum thrown by the child.
It is an attempt to represent the human behavior more scientifically and precisely. After describing the behavior, the next step is explanation of behavior, that is, why the person is behaving in a particular way. For example, what are the reasons for the temper tantrum of the child? It is an attempt to find out all the possible reasons for a particular behavior. Prediction is the next goal of human development. It means to anticipate the future behavior on the basis of past and present behavior. If the behavior is described and explained in a proper scientific manner, then one can predict the behavior easily. For example, if we know the possible causes of the temper tantrum of a child, we can predict in which situations the child is likely to throw temper tantrums. The final goal of human development is modification. Modification is alteration and improvement in behavior to its best. For example, by using various strategies, the child's behavior of temper tantrums can be modified, for instance by avoiding the situations that initiate a temper tantrum or by role modeling, showing her or him how to behave positively in such situations. We have seen that all these four goals work together. Now let us discuss the nature of human development. 1.4.3 Nature of Human Development. In this subsection, we will discuss about development and its characteristics, and in the next two subsections you will read about domains of human development and periods of the human lifespan. Development and its characteristics. Development is defined as change in all human aspects including physical, motor, emotional, language, intellectual, social, and behavior in a progressive manner. Puberty in adolescent is an example of physical development. Development is a process which has some specific characteristics. These are: 1. Development is lifelong. Development is a continuous process. It occurs throughout the lifespan of human beings, whereas the rate of development may vary according to the phase of the lifespan. For example, physical development is more rapid in the first 3 years of life in comparison to middle age. 2. Development follows a specific sequence. Development follows an order of sequence, and this order is universal. For example, a child always learns to stand before walking, and babbles before speaking. Although the rate of development may vary from person to person, yet the sequence remains the same. For example, one child may learn to sit at the age of 5 months, whereas another child learns to sit at the age of 7 months, but both of them learn to sit before they learn to stand. Sometimes a certain stage may be skipped and the child may jump from first level to third level, but it is always from a lower level to a higher level. For example, some children may skip the phase of crawling and start standing after they learn to sit. See figure 1.3. Usually physical development follows 2 sequences, that are: 1. Cephalocaudal development. Cephalocaudal development means that development proceeds from head to toe direction. That is, the child gains control over the upper part of the body first, then on the trunk region, and then on the lower part. For example, children learn to control their head movements first, then hold the neck, and after that only they learn to sit. 2. Proximodistal development. Proximodistal development means the development spreads from near to far. The organs near to the heart are developed first than those farther from the heart. For example, children acquire control on their shoulders, then on their arms, then on their hand movements, and only after that they control their finger movements, which help in fine motor activities. 3. Development is irreversible. Development process is irreversible, as one who acquires or develops up to some level cannot go back to the lower level. For example, the child who learns walking cannot leave or forget standing, or one who attains the height of 5 feet cannot go back to 4 feet height, or the child who has entered the early childhood stage cannot become an infant again. 4. Development proceeds from general to specific. Development becomes more definite with age. It starts from general responses, and after some time, as the development proceeds, responses become more specific. For example, the neonates cry for each and every uneasiness, whether hunger, bedwetting, uncomfortable clothing, cold, etc. But as they grow older, the cry or signs for hunger are different from the signs for bedwetting. 5. Child develops as a whole. When we talk about the development of a child, it means development in all the areas, that is, physical, mental, social, emotional, behavioral, and so on. Development in all these areas takes place simultaneously. The child develops as a unified whole. Therefore, it is advisable to provide a rich environment for the development of children that helps them to develop to their fullest potential. 6. Development is cumulative in nature. In any organism, the next development always follows the previous one, or in other words, we can say that the previous development acts as a base for the following development. It is not possible that new development occurs on its own, irrespective of the existing development. For example, before rupturing of teeth in infants, the gums get harder, and the child begins uttering single words before learning to speak in sentences. 7. Development varies from one child to another. Although developmental sequence is the same for each and every child, but the time and status of development varies from to child. There are individual differences in the development of the child because of certain factors, such as nutrition and health status, socio-cultural influences, genetic predisposition, economic status of family, etc. For example, while one child may start speaking much earlier than the other, it is possible that the latter one starts walking earlier than the former. 8. Biological and environmental contexts strongly influence development. Every person develops within a specific environment which is comprised of her or his surroundings, and defined by time and place. Biological contexts like heredity and maturation influence human development. Similarly, ecological contexts like family, neighborhood, and culture also have a great impact on human development. See Figure 1.4. We will discuss this aspect in detail in the later part of this unit. 9. Development is multidimensional and multidirectional. Development occurs in multiple areas at the same time. It is not as if children grow physically first and then their cognitive development takes place, or after that social development occurs. All the development, whether physical, social, cognitive or emotional, occurs simultaneously. Development might be faster in one area in comparison to another at a particular stage of human lifespan, but it occurs simultaneously. For example, language development appears slow in the first year of life in comparison to physical development. Development includes a balance of growth and decline throughout life. Papalia et al., 2001. For example, people stop growing in height after some time during adulthood, but they may still develop other capabilities like vocabulary, problem-solving skills, etc. during old age. The memory and eyesight may start to diminish, but the person now has greater expertise in some fields. 1.4.4 Domains of Human Development. Development has different aspects, which we call domains of development. Broadly, there are three domains of human development, namely the physical and motor domain, the language and cognitive domain, and the socio-emotional domain. All these three domains are interrelated and interdependent throughout the lifespan of human beings. Now let us see what we actually mean by these terms. 1. Physical and motor domain. Physical and motor domain includes growth of the body size and brain development, perceptual skills, motor skills and physical health. 2. Language and cognitive domain. This domain includes development and changes in mental abilities like attention, learning, thinking, memory, reasoning, creativity, imagination and language development. For example, the child begins to speak two-word sentences, memorizes a story, etc. 3. Socio-emotional domain. Socio-emotional domain includes changes in the individual's relationships with others, development and changes in experiencing and manifestation of emotions, self-concept, interpersonal skills, intimate relations, friendship, moral development and behavior. Although we have stated the domains separately, yet all these three domains are closely related and interdependent. For example, a child with good physical and mental health has more chances to do well academically than a child who is physically not well or mentally highly stressed. 1.4.5 Periods of human development. After discussing the domains of human development, let us study the periods of human development. The concept of periods of development is also known as social construction. Social construction is an idea about the nature of reality accepted by members of a particular society at a particular time on the basis of shared subjective perceptions or assumptions. Papilla et al., 2001. Many developmental psychologists divided human lifespan into developmental periods so as to organize and understand development better. Let us now discuss the stages of human lifespan. 1. The prenatal period. The prenatal period starts with the time of conception till birth of the child. It is further divided into three substages. These are: A. Period of the zygote or zygotic period, which includes the first 14 days after fertilization. During this period, rapid cell division occurs. Zygote moves out from fallopian tube to uterus and attaches itself to the wall of the uterus. B. Period of the embryo or embryonic period includes the first 2 months of pregnancy. During this period, the foundation of vital organs and other major development is laid. C. Period of the fetus or fetus period includes the next 7 months of pregnancy till the delivery of the baby. During this period, the child develops in the womb of the mother. 2. Infancy. Infancy is the developmental period which is further divided into 2 substages. These are the neonatal period, which starts with the birth of the child and ends at 4 weeks after birth. After 4 weeks to 2 years, the child is called an infant. Infants are generally dependent on adults for their needs. The physical development is very fast during this period. It is also a beginning stage of many activities like language, sensory motor coordination and socialization. The age period of 1 to 3 years is considered as toddlerhood. 3. Early childhood period. Early childhood is the period lasting from the age of 3 years to 6 years. This is also called the preschool period, or exploratory period. During this period, children are prepared for schooling. The social development is very fast during this developmental period. Nowadays, early childhood is considered from conception to age 8 years. 4. Childhood period. The childhood period includes the years from the age of 6 years to 9 years. It is also called the elementary school period. The basic skills of reading, writing and arithmetic are learned during this period. 5. Adolescence period. Adolescence is considered as a period between childhood and adulthood. Adolescence period starts from 10 years to 19 years, according to the report of Working Group on Adolescence for 10th Five-Year Plan, Government of India. This is also known as teenage. Early adolescence is the period lasting from 10 years to 12 years. It is a period of rapid physical growth and secondary sex characteristics start appearing. This period begins with the onset of puberty. Reproduction maturity occurs at this stage. Late adolescence is considered from 15 years onwards. 6. Adulthood period. Adulthood period comprises the age of 21 years to 60 years. Physical development reaches its peak and then declines slightly during this period. Educational and professional choices are made in the beginning of this stage. 7. Late adulthood period. From the age 60 years onwards, the period of lifespan is known as senescence or old age. It lasts till the death of the individual. The reaction time slows down and physical health is also affected due to a number of factors. This stage is also known as retirement stage. Every period of development has certain development tasks, which must be mastered for normal development. Development tasks can be defined as certain problems that arise during a particular period of life. If the individual is successful in handling these problems, this will lead to satisfaction and success in preceding tasks. But if she or he fails, it will lead to dissatisfaction in the individual, disapproval from society and difficulties with subsequent tasks. Devdas and Jr. 1984. Human lifespan was divided in stages by other psychologists also, for example, psychosexual stages by Sigmund Freud, and psychosocial stages by Erik Erikson. We will study these theories in the third unit of this block. 1.4.6 Indian View on Human Lifespan. The stages of human lifespan were described in the Dharmashastra written by Manu of ancient India. Manu divided the human lifespan in 4 stages according to different social settings. He also gave a detailed account of each and every stage in respect of the individual's role and responsibility in every setting. He believed that each stage is a preparation for the preceding stage. Devdas and Jr. 1984. The lifespan stages were termed as ashrams in the Dharmashastra. The 4 ashrams of human life are: 1. Brahmacharya, stage of apprenticeship. This is a period of learning, the foundation of life. This period lasts from birth to about 25 years of life. The major part is spent in Gurukul or in learning before the child enters the Gurukul. The early years of life are divided into different stages, which are I. Balpan, that is the period of pregnancy and birth of the child. 2. Kshira is a period of Kali infancy, that is from birth to 9 months of age. In this Namakaran, name of child, ceremony is done. The period is characterized by breastfeeding, and is important for building the mother-child relationship. 3. Kshiranida is period from 9 months to 2 to 3 years or early childhood, in which Chandakaranar, shaving head, ceremony is done. 4. Bala, middle childhood, is period of 2 to 3 years to 5 to 7 years, in which Vidyarambha, formal education, of child starts, and V. Kumara, 5 to 7 years to 8-12 years, is a period of late childhood in which Upanayanam, a ceremony in which the child is considered to take a second birth, is performed. In this stage, children learn social roles, responsibilities and practice religious rituals. Kukka, 1981, Saraswati and Ganpati, 2002. After this stage, the Brahmacharya ashram starts, in which education is imparted on spiritual, community and family life. More emphasis is given on positive training and discipline. 2. Grihasthashram, stage of family. This stage lasts from about 25 years to 50 years of life. It is a period of procreation and family living. During this period, the person gets married, starts family life, raises children and fulfills his roles and responsibilities towards family and society. In this phase, people spend most of their time in the family and community. 3. Vanaprastha, stage of extrication from attachment. It is a period of spiritual maturity, meditation and prayer. During this period, the focus of the person shifts from family life towards spiritual practice. At this stage, people follow a simpler lifestyle than at earlier stages and reduce their participation in community functions. This stage starts from around 50 years of age and lasts till 75 years of age. 4. Sannyas, stage of renunciation. It is a period of detachment from each and every worldly thing such as family members, community, wealth etc. The person is now free from family, political, professional and social commitments. The only goal of life at this stage is spirituality. This stage is from about 75 years onwards. 1.5 Basic perspectives of human development. We have studied earlier that development has different domains and it can be divided into different stages. It is seen that the approaches used to study human development are also different. Various researchers and scientists studied the human development process in different ways. We can categorize these researchers' theories on the basis of 4 basic issues which we can say are the basic perspectives of human development. These are: 1. Continuous versus discontinuous development. 2. Nature versus nurture. 3. Active versus passive child. And 4. Stability versus change. 1.5.1 Continuous versus discontinuous development. The major debate regarding the nature of development process among the developmental psychologists is whether development is a continuous process or a discontinuous one, occurring in stages. Mechanistic theorists view development as a continuous process occurring in an orderly way, that is, earlier experience lays a base for new experiences. According to them, development is a smooth and gradual process which does not occur abruptly. These theories focus on quantitative changes that occur during development. For example, they study change in the frequency of behavior instead of change in the style of behavior. Albert Bandura supports the view of continuous change. We will study his theory in Unit 5. But organismic theorists believe that development occurs in a series of distinct stages. The aspects of development and skills learned are distinctly different for each stage. These theories focused on qualitative changes that occur during the course of development. Jean Piaget, Sigmund Freud and Erik Erikson proposed the stage theories of development which we will discuss in further units. A. Continuous development. B. Discontinuous development. 1.5.2 Nature versus nurture. The second major issue of development is whether nature or nurture governs development. Although almost all scientists and researchers agree that both nature, biological inheritance of individual, and nurture, the environmental factors, affect human development, yet there is conflict over the degree of involvement and importance of these factors. Biological extremists or the scientists and psychologists who believe in nature maintain that biology is destiny that decides the course of development of an individual. They strongly believe that maturation is merely an effect of development which is guided by the genetic processes. Arnold Gosell had strongly advocated this view, whereas other theorists like John B. Watson opposed this view and emphasized strictly on the environmental effects on development. Watson, 1930, claimed that he could train any healthy infant into any type of specialist like doctor, lawyer, merchant, chief etc. by organizing the proper environment regardless of the infant's talents and abilities. The environmental factors can shape the development of the child. For example, it is seen that children who are rejected by their peer group often develop behavioral problems. Brown, 2004.
1 May 2003 Active versus passive child. Another view, on which developmental psychologists have an argument, is whether child is an active or a passive organism. Earlier researchers viewed the child as a passive organism whose character is determined by the environmental factors. For example, we studied the tabula rasa view of John Locke, who considered the child as a passive organism. According to this view, proper training of skills, suitable environment and talented teacher mold the child accordingly. But the modern developmental psychologists oppose this view and strongly believe that child is an active organism who shapes, controls and directs the course of her or his own development. Bugital and Goodnow, 1998. They view children as curious information seekers who themselves want to understand and explore the world around them. We have also studied the view of Jean-Jacques Rousseau and G. Stanley Hall, who favored this view of development. 1 May 2004, Stability versus change. Another major issue for discussion for developmentalists is whether the inherited traits and characteristics persist throughout the lifespan or are they liable to change. This is also known as stability change issue. According to the stability viewpoint, the characteristics inherited by children along with the experiences they encounter in the first 2 to 3 years of life will determine their characteristics and remain stable throughout the lifespan. For example, the Greek philosopher Plato, 428 to 348 BC, believed that infants who are rocked frequently become athletes in future life. According to this view, development takes place in early years of life and in later years it is negligible. This might be a reason for the dearth of studies on adult development by researchers. Santrock, 2007. As we have seen, there are very few researches on adult development in comparison to child development. But the developmentalists who believe that development is a continuous process support the change view in development. They said that children are malleable throughout their development and care during later stages is as significant as it is during the early years of life. For example, Kagan, 2003, studied 2-year-old children who were shy and timid and found that 1/3 of the total children did not show shy and timid behavior when they reached at the age of 4 years. According to Santrock, 2007, Asian people believe that experiences at 6 to 7 years of age are more important for development in comparison to early experiences at early years, since it is trusted in their culture that child's reasoning skills begin to develop at middle childhood. 1 May 2005, A Middle Path. We have studied different views on development but all in terms of extremes, that means as dichotomous, favoring either one side or the opposite side of that issue. But nowadays, no one supports either of these extreme positions. Modern developmental psychologists are more eager to explore the balanced view on development. For the issue of continuous versus discontinuous nature of development, psychologists with a balanced view believe that development is basically continuous but there are periods of transition in which change takes place suddenly. The transition period reveals the developmental process clearly at a particular period of the lifespan. For example, onset of puberty, beginning of family life, etc. Similarly, modern developmental psychologists believe that nature and nurture are equally important and responsible for the development of an individual. For example, genetic inheritance as well as nutritional status equally affect the health status of the individual, just as certain hormones as well as exposure to aggressive behavior influence the development of aggression in an individual. Hatterington and Purkey, 1999. Hence, in the discipline of human development, the focus is now on studying the correlated and interactional effects of inherited biological factors and how they are shaped, modified and directed by different sets of environmental factors, instead of arguing on the importance of one factor, nature, versus another, nurture. We also take a middle path on child's activeness or passiveness. Today the developmental psychologists discard the view that child is either an active or a passive organism. They say that development is a two-way process, it is not one-sided. For example, although socializing agents like peers, parents or other adults affect the development of the child, yet the child can also actively modify the behavior of his parents, peers and others adults in his milieu. Haight Terrington and Perkey, 1999. 1.6 Influences on human development. We now know that development is a universal and continuous process. It follows the same set of sequences for every human being irrespective of culture, gender, region, etc. But we observed that not even two persons are alike, there are variations in the height, weight, body build, health, intelligence and many other aspects. This is due to individual differences that affect the developmental process. The main reasons of individual differences are the biological and environmental influences on development. For example, the sex of the individual is determined by the biology or sex chromosomes that she or he inherits. But it is not always possible to measure the effect of biological and environmental factors on human development, as development is a complex, multidirectional and multidimensional process. To understand the individual differences, we need to study the influences of major contexts like gender, maturation, family, neighborhood, socioeconomic status, ethnicity and culture on the development of human beings. 1st June 2001 Biological Influences on Human Development. Biology provides the blueprint for development, which is called genetic programming. It may determine the whole process of development in future years. The main aspects influenced by biology are the sex of the individual and maturation. 1. Gender. The gender of an individual affects his or her development. For example, certain hormones like androgen etc. determine the male sex characteristics, are higher in males. They are also responsible for the more muscular body in males in comparison to females. Similarly, mammary glands in females secrete hormones, oxytocin, which is responsible for milk production in females, after delivery of child, which makes them different from males. The age of puberty is also different for males and females. Females are generally 2 to 3 years ahead of males and acquire reproductive maturity earlier than males. In some cases, however, the age of maturity is also determined by environmental factors. 2. Maturation. The term maturation was given by developmental psychologist Arnold Gesell, 1880 to 1961. He described the sequential pattern of development through this term. Developmental sequences which are based on maturation have no relation with training or practice. For example, appearance of secondary sex characteristics like pubic hair, broadening of pelvic bone in girls are totally based on the maturation of individual. Maturation process follows 3 principles. I. Maturation is universal, which means that each and every living organism is bound to mature. 2. Maturation follows a specific sequence. I. Maturation is relatively less affected by environmental factors. 1st June 2002 Environmental Influences on Human Development. Let us now discuss the various environmental factors that influence human development. 1. Family. Family is a basic unit of society. Family can be defined as 2 or more people related by either blood, marriage or adoption, sharing same set of norms, values, morals and may live under the same roof. Though later at age parents and children may not share the same norms or values. Family has a number of functions such as reproduction, socialization, emotional support, economic services, etc. All these functions play an important role in human development. Family influences the individual's development directly or indirectly. The main characteristic of Indian family is that there is a hierarchy in family roles according to the age and sex of the members, which directly influences human development. Also, the interaction between two family members affects the development of other members of the family. 2. Socioeconomic status. Socioeconomic status comprises of many factors, like income, education, profession, neighborhood, etc. Socioeconomic status, SES, influences the individual's development in many ways. For example, a person who belongs to low SES has restricted access to school facilities and may not get opportunities to develop to her or his fullest potential. It is seen that factors like neighborhood income and human capital, that is, presence of educated, employed adults, can affect the development of children. Sometimes such conditions exist which increase the likelihood of a negative developmental outcome. These conditions are known as risk factors, for example, an alcoholic parent or poverty. 3. Culture. Culture can be defined as ways of life of a society or group, which mainly includes customs, traditions, values, beliefs, language, etc. It is the learned behavior which is passed from one generation to another. Culture is dynamic in nature, it is not static. Culture further has subcultures like tribes and ethnic groups. India is a large country with a number of subcultures. Nowadays, migration from one state to another, from one region to another, and one country to another is very common, because of varied factors, like employment, education, marriage, etc. So, immigrant group or minority group learns the language and customs of the majority group as it is needed to get along in the dominant culture, while the minority group tries to preserve some of their own cultural practices and values. This process is called acculturation. For example, families from India live in France, learn French, and try to adopt eating habits of the French, but they celebrate their functions and festivals according to their cultural norms. Culture also influences human development in many ways. It might be directly or indirectly. For example, a Hindu gets married according to Hindu marriage traditions, see Fig. 1.8. Further, one tends to follow gender roles determined by the culture or society. These are the examples of direct influences of culture on human development. Some child-rearing practices are indirectly influenced by cultural norms. For example, onset of puberty or first menstruation in adolescent girls is celebrated in some states of southern India. Here, we would like to conclude that both biological and environmental influences play a significant role in the child's development. Maturational readiness, when associated with appropriate environmental stimulation, results in optimal development. 1st June 2003. Normative and non-normative influences. We have studied that development follows a sequence which is common for all. We also studied that there are individual differences in development due to many factors. To understand the similarities and differences in development, we have to study such factors that have influence on most of the people and others that only influence certain individuals. We can classify these factors according to their influences. 1. Normative influences. Normative influences can be defined as the influences experienced in the same way by a large number of people in a group. These events are usual and common for a certain group of people. Normative influences can be further divided into two groups. These are: 1. Normative age-graded influences. These normative influences are experienced by a particular age group. For example, puberty in adolescents or menopause in middle-aged women. 2. Normative history graded influences. These are the normative influences which affect only that group of people who share a similar set of experiences. For example, growing up at the same place and at same stage of lifespan. 2. Non-normative influences. Non-normative influences can be defined as influences that have a major effect on one individual. These can be usual events, but the timing of these events is not correct, which makes them unusual events. For example, pregnancy at teenage or death of parents of an infant. 1st June 2004 Critical and sensitive periods. As we studied, the timing of a usual event can make it unusual. Hence we can say that timing of influences is very important. In this context, let us examine the crucial concepts of critical period and sensitive period. 1. Critical period. It can be defined as a specific time when the occurrence or absence of certain events has great impact on the development of an individual. Papalia et al. 2001. For example, if a lady gets affected by German measles, rubella, after or before pregnancy, it has negligible effect on the child's health, but if she gets this infection during first or second trimester of pregnancy, it will seriously affect the child's mental and physical development. 2. Sensitive period. It is a particular experience which can be best incorporated during the maturation process for proper development. B. and Dennis, 2004. For example, the age of 22 to 35 years sensitive period for pregnancy, even though a woman may get pregnant after first menstruation up to her menopause, but in that case, there will be greater risk for both the mother and the child. Likewise, infancy and early childhood are the sensitive periods for language development, wherein stimulating experience will yield optimal benefits. 1.7 Significance of studying human development in the field of counseling and family therapy. The main aim of this counseling and family therapy program of study is to orient learners towards the needs and problems of those they are trying to help. The program is intended to prepare interpersonally skilled and culturally competent professional counselors and family therapists who facilitate the psychological growth and development of those they serve. They will also help those who experience difficulties in overcoming or resolving interpersonal, vocational, and emotional adjustment problems associated with modern living. The counselors and family therapists intervene for promoting positive family interrelationships and reducing maladaptive behavior and psychosomatic problems. Hence, to be an effective counselor and family therapist, it is a prerequisite to acquire basic knowledge about human development, its milestones and processes, its historical perspectives and basic concepts, and the variety of factors that influence it. It is seen that human beings continue to develop throughout their lives and are not restricted to the effects of incidences that happened to them from birth to 6 years of age. The milieu plays an important role throughout the lifespan. To do the justice to the job of a counselor or family therapist, in addition to the study of human development, we also need to study the family system, because the whole family is involved in each member's development. Each member influences and reacts to another member's phase of life. The family has its own stages of life cycle that are the major context and determinant of the development of individual family members. Socio-emotional development of an individual takes place within a family. The phases and course of development can be identified and predicted by studying the family itself. It can also help to understand the emotional problems that people develop as they struggle together through this basic process. Without acquiring the knowledge about these concepts, it is not possible to intervene effectively in family processes and personal problems. Knowledge of basic perspectives and understanding of human development and family life cycle will equip you to deal with interpersonal, vocational, and emotional adjustment problems. As a counselor and family therapist often has to work with disturbed and dysfunctional individuals and families, so it is advisable to proceed from the normal development of individuals and families that may serve as the base to which you will try to restore them after their treatment. This knowledge and treatment is needed to promote the positive aspects and reduce the negative. So keeping all these points in mind, we are studying about human development, and further we will study about theories of human development and families, and understand the stages of family life cycle in the context to counseling and family therapy. 1. 8. Let us sum up. In the beginning of this unit, we studied about the historical views of various civilizations on child and how childhood as a different stage gained its space. We also saw differences in the Western view on the child and the Indian view regarding the child. Further, we learned how scientific foundation of human development was laid. We got to know about baby biographers and normative period. We studied about the major concerns of early developmental theorists. We also examined the development of the discipline of human development. In India, we learned that human development is comparatively a new field of study. It is an interdisciplinary and applied field. Description, explanation, prediction, and modification are the major goals of the discipline of human development. We acquired knowledge about the development process and its characteristics. The three domains of human development viz. Physical, cognitive, and socio-emotional were also studied. We saw how the lifespan of human beings is divided into various stages by Western as well as Indian thinkers. The unit also focused on the four basic perspectives of human development that are continuous versus discontinuous, nature versus nurture, active versus passive child, and stability versus change in development. We also studied the middle path regarding these perspectives. In the end of this unit, we studied the various biological and environmental influences on human development that lead to individual differences in human beings. The normative and non-normative influences and importance of timing of influences such as critical period and sensitive period were also outlined. Finally, the significance of studying human development in the field of counseling and family therapy was discussed. Thank you. Subscribe to our channel for more updates, and we will see you with the next chapter.